You're walking on a desolate plain, nothing but dry, cracked ground under your feet. No plants, no animals, just tall mountains off in the distance. Hard to believe this barren valley was once teeming with life. It used to be the bottom of a lake. As you're walking in the quiet solitude, you notice a trail. It looks as if someone was dragging a heavy bag for hundreds of feet. Intrigued, you follow the track. It leads you straight, then gently curves to one side or the other, sometimes even making zigzags. Very odd indeed. Finally, you see the source of the trail, but it only adds more mystery. It's a huge stone lying alone in the middle of the plain. Who would want to push a rock that far? The answer is no one. The stone moved by itself. It's a phenomenon called sailing stones, and it's observed in several places in the U.S. In winter, the entire valley and huge rocks, some weighing as much as a horse, are iced over. This drastically reduces the friction between the stone and the ground. When the wind blows, the stone begins to slide. Once the ice melts, the track remains on the sand, and there sits a lonely traveler rock. Our next stop is Canada's Abraham Lake. It's frozen now. From a distance, it looks like the surface is covered in patches of snow. But as you get closer and step on the ice, you see the white patches are frozen bubbles inside the lake. Looks like thousands of frozen jellyfish. But don't even try to break the ice to investigate further. These bubbles are made of methane, a highly flammable gas. When any organic matter, like leaves, grass, insects, enters the lake, it becomes food for bacteria that release methane as a byproduct. That methane turns into tens of thousands of frozen disks as soon as it comes into contact with frozen water. As the ice melts, the bubbles burst and sizzle. You can also see this phenomenon on some shores of the Arctic Ocean. There, the methane bubbles can be as big as hot air balloons. It's a beautiful sight, but very dangerous. Our journey is getting even colder. We're in Antarctica. Here, the amount of bright white light can blind you. Against an endless landscape of snow and ice, you notice a red dot in the distance. You go to it and realize that it's a red waterfall about 5 stories high. It looks as if the glacier is bleeding. This isn't a scene from a horror movie, but a totally natural phenomenon. About 2 million years ago, a salty pond got trapped under a glacier. The water stopped receiving light, heat, and oxygen. Then, a thin trickle of water began to seep through the ice. The contact of such salt water with oxygen turned it a bright rustic red color. There's only one such stream on this planet. Time to warm up. We're off to Indonesia on the island of Java. We come to a magnificent volcano overgrown with grass and trees. The volcano seems dormant, but smoke is pluming out of it. We climb to the top, and instead of boiling lava, we find a beautiful bright turquoise lake, an oasis hidden within the crater of a volcano. But don't even think about taking a dip. That water is more like acid. Sulfur gases get into the lake from within the volcano. The lake, which contains a lot of metals inside, becomes this beautiful color when it comes in contact with sulfur. When the hot liquid sulfur catches fire, the lake glows electric blue. At night, it looks as if the volcano is spewing bright blue lava. From blue to bubblegum pink, we're now at Lake Hillier in Australia. It's not the only one of its kind in the world, but one thing does make it unique. When you scoop the water up in a glass, it remains pink. Scientists still aren't sure why the lake is this color. The most popular theory is saltwater algae and pink bacteria. They create such pigments as a byproduct of using the sun for energy. Oh, and this lake, though super salty, is perfectly safe to swim in. But it's closed to tourists. Unless you have special permission, like for researchers. The public can take a helicopter tour over it, though. Now we find ourselves in the Namib Desert in southern Africa. You notice a strange phenomenon stretching hundreds of miles. These unusual round patches in the sand have been dubbed fairy circles. Their diameters can be anywhere from 6 to 50 feet across. One theory says the circles are made by sand termites. They dig holes to store water and eat all the roots of plants so that nothing grows on the patches. Other versions claim that it's all the fault of radiation or a toxic plant that affects everything around. Hey, not all lightning strikes from the sky. There's a very rare phenomenon called a dirty thunderstorm. During this event, lightning is created not by clouds in the sky, but a volcano. Japan's Sakurajima is one of the most famous active volcanoes in the world. Almost every day it erupts and releases black clouds into the air. Lightning forms inside these clouds. During any storm, ice crystals collide with each other and create electricity. This is how ordinary lightning appears. During a dirty thunderstorm, particles of volcanic ash collide instead of ice crystals. Our journey continues on the water. We get on a boat and sail away from the shore. It doesn't matter where we are, because this phenomenon happens all over the world. The sea is crystal clear and calm. There's no wind. But what's that? You hear a loud hum. Within seconds, a massive wave 45 feet high appears from the calm sea surface. Luckily, your boat manages to stay afloat, and the wave disappears as suddenly as it appeared. You've just survived an attack from a rogue wave. Some scientists believe they appear when the surface sea current collides with a strong headwind. Others say it's born from the collision of warm and cold currents. But the most interesting theory is that waves are formed by something called kinetic vampirism. According to this version, under certain natural conditions, waves acquire the ability to exchange kinetic energy. And among all the waves, there will be one, the vampire. It absorbs and collects energy from all the others and then releases it in one blow. This explains the impact force and its sudden disappearance. Our next stop is the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. It's one of the driest places on Earth, usually getting less than a half an inch of rain a year. But every 5 to 7 years, flowers randomly bloom here. It's connected with the El Niño phenomenon, where warm ocean temperatures create more precipitation on land. Then the yellow sands of the Atacama get colored purple, white, green, and pink. Blooms from over 200 unique flower species. But strangely enough, the desert won't bloom if it gets too much rain. Back to Australia, we arrive at the town of Wagga Wagga in New South Wales. It's May, winter starts next month here, but the temperature is comfortably cool. The grass is still green, it's bright and sunny. In the distance you see white fields covered in snow. But as you get closer, you realize that's not snow at all. It's a blanket of spider webs. And this is a completely natural phenomenon. It's something a lot of spider species do called ballooning. They'll crawl to a high-up place, say a tree or a telephone pole, and release a stream of silk. The wind catches that silk and the spiders take flight. If enough of them do it at once, as in millions, you get a mass spider migration and a scene that looks like something from your worst nightmare. When this spider rain ends, the land is covered in webs. Fields, trees, fences, everything around. It's totally harmless to people, though pretty inconvenient. Well, good luck sleeping tonight.